call the member for McNamara.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. I rise to speak on these bills, and I want to begin my remarks by acknowledging the literally hundreds and hundreds of people who have written to me in the last few days via email, on various social media platforms, and have called me. And I want to say that I have read each and every one of your emails. I have read each and every one of your texts, and I hear you, and I'll be getting back to each and every one of you soon. And I hope that the House makes significant amendments that I can update you on, that we can strengthen protection against people. But let me say from the outset that I feel this bill does not get the balance right. I feel this bill, in my opinion, has too many aspects to it that are divisive and that override existing protections in the law. And I feel that this bill did not get the balance right. And while I won't go into what was discussed in internal Labor meetings, I did express my view in those meetings, and I do not feel that in its current form this bill should get passage through this House. But we can improve this bill. We can go a long way to fixing this bill. And before I talk about the bill, I want to just say something as a side point. My electorate of McNamara is filled with amazing people, people who care about one another and people who care about issues of protecting people's identity, whether they be gay, straight, bisexual, trans, intersex, queer. It does not matter who you are. And in the electorate of McNamara, in the suburbs of St Kilda and Port Melbourne and Ripponlea and Caulfield and Elwood, I know that people where I come from and the people that I represent, they do not want Australia to be a place where we are discriminating on one group against another. They do not want that. And I have heard them loud and clear. And I also say to any young people who I represent or who are even participating in this debate or who are raising their voice, keep raising your voice. Your voice matters in this debate. And we in this place hear you. And I want to acknowledge that for a lot of people, this debate has been really hard. Really hard. That this debate has been at times one whether people in this place are questioning whether a young person is okay, it has morphed into this quite awful debate about whether people feel that they are accepted or not in this country. And I just want to say that if you feel that way, then that's okay. It's okay to feel that you've been let down by the way in which these issues have been debated, not just now, but in the past. And I also want to say, before I move into the bill, that my family, like so many others in this country, has people from a range of genders and sexualities, and it hasn't been a smooth passage towards acceptance for people that I love and I love dearly. It hasn't been easy, and that the pathway towards acceptance has not been a straightforward one for many people, including people that I love. And I did not come to this place to enable discrimination against one person from another. And I will continue to work while I'm privileged to be the member in this place to ensure that we in Australia remove discrimination and end it as opposed to provide legal protections for it. So let's go into the bill. There are huge swathes of this bill that are not only uncontroversial, they are good. You should not be discriminated against in this country if you hold a particular faith. If you are Hindu and you are Australian, that is brilliant. If you are Jewish and you are Australian, that is excellent. If you are Christian and Australian, good on you. If you are Islamic, then more power to you. Whatever faith you hold, whoever you believe in, whatever you believe that you to be true to who you are and as part of your identity, we in this country should celebrate our differences. And I love going to seeing the wonderful multicultural aspects of our community. My family is a family that understands religious freedom being taken away from us. We do. My grandmother fled Nazi Germany when she was 4 years old. My grandmother didn't have religious freedom. We have religious freedom in this country. We accept people and their faith, and that is something I am deeply proud of. And this bill does go some way to ensuring that those people, whether you wear a hijab, whether you wear a yarmulke, whether you wear whatever religious garb that makes you who you are, that you shouldn't be discriminated against. And that's a good thing, and I stand by that. And I think we all stand by that. And had the Prime Minister left it at that, had the Prime Minister left the only aspects of this bill that protected people from discrimination instead of providing various frameworks that enable discrimination, then I think we would all be in this place celebrating a true moment of leadership, just in the same way that the Labor Party celebrated John Howard in the Age Discrimination Act. Just as Labor moved various other pieces of Discrimination Act, Sex Discrimination Act, Disability Discrimination Act. We don't believe that one Australian should be discriminated, but that's not where the bill ends. There are parts of this bill that override and intersect with existing protections. The most egregious is the statement of belief. Now, I believe that you should be able to state what you believe. You should be able to confidently and proudly express your faith in this country. Of course you should. But should you be able to vilify someone whilst doing that? No. We must have respect, and I think that is a central tenet of faith. I grew up and I went to a Jewish school, and I was always taught to do as to others as you want done to yourself. And for me, expressing faith and spirituality and religion has never been something where we would use that to belittle another human being, to express opinions about another human being. It was a way of interacting and asking of yourself, how do you interact with others in a way that lifts them up, not brings them down? But the Statement of Belief clause should be amended so it doesn't intersect with existing laws. We should not be weakening existing laws in this country. Now, the government before the Christmas break announced an amendment to the Sex Discrimination Act. They announced an amendment where 4 members of the government and the Attorney General announced that they were going to remove the ability for students to be discriminated against in schools. The Prime Minister then also recommitted to that exact thing. He wrote to the Leader of the Opposition saying that he was going to remove the ability for schools to be discriminated against, for schools to discriminate against their student. We also obviously had the City Point incident where a pretty outrageous contract was asked of students to define what they are and what they're not. And obviously that received the appropriate backlash. But the Prime Minister made a promise to protect kids. And at the moment, what's on the table by the government is an amendment to the Sex Discrimination Act that would prevent kids being expelled. Not kids being treated differently, not kids being discriminated against, not kids being put in detention, not kids being restricted from being on the debating team. Just, you can't expel kids. Are we really, in this place, comfortable with the threshold that the House of Representatives of Australia believes that kids can be discriminated against in our schools? Now, I know that this is existing law and this wasn't originally in the Prime Minister's legislation, but that is the question that we are going to have to ask ourselves later tonight. Are we really, in the Australian House of Representatives on the 9th of February 2022, as members of various political persuasions, going to be happy saying that we can discriminate against some kids, whether you're gay, you're bi, you're trans, whatever you are we saying that that's a grounds for discrimination against kids? Well, of course it's bloody not. And I know that there are members on that side, people who I consider friends, who are deeply, deeply disturbed by that question. And I know that there are members on that side who are grappling with what the political equation is. But putting that aside, tonight in the House of Representatives, we are going to be asking ourselves, do you, as an adult, as a member of this privileged place, sign your name to an amendment that means some kids can be discriminated against or not? And I would urge, please, a majority of members of this place to decide that question in the right way. That will end a lot of pain tonight. And that will send a clear message that children who grow up questioning who they are, not choosing to, but that's just who they are, can get a clear message that this place believes that they are exactly who they should be. They are worth every bit as much as the next person in this country, and that they deserve protections equal to any other person in this great place and in this great country. Labor also will move amendments around anti-vilification, which again I implore the House to support. The power of speech to cut through and to hurt is immense, and we should not be discriminating against another Australian on the basis of our speech. We do not want the right to be a bigot in this country. And I'm proud that the Labor Party's consistent position on matters of vilification and ending discrimination. There are many places around the world where people of various faiths are not free. And I am immensely proud of Australia and the wonderful multicultural success story that it is. I love going to see my Hare Krishna temple and the generosity that they provide when they just give out meals because that is who they are. And I loved going to the Pride Shabbat at Temple Beth Israel on Friday night, where Jewish people were celebrating members who have been ostracised in the community. I love going to visit my Anglican church and seeing a priest named Kath, who I consider a friend, who is one of the most inspiring and generous people, who gives to her community and looks after some of the most vulnerable and needy people in our community because she cares. I am inspired by Father Cox, who works in the small parish next to our public housing. Religion can be a great source of comfort and of support to people in this country, and we should have the freedom to express ourselves and express our faith, and I wholeheartedly support that. But that doesn't mean that religion can be used as a tool, and in the way in which this has been morphed into the Prime Minister basically insinuating that someone's faith is enough of a reason to discriminate against someone else. Well, it's not. And just as I am proud to walk into those places of worship, I am proud to walk down Fitzroy Street each and every year, down the Pride March, in the heart of my electorate, in the heart of St Kilda, in the heart of diversity, and seeing people lift themselves up with their chin held high, celebrating who they are, celebrating themselves and their different identities and their sexualities, and it doesn't matter whether they are gay, straight, bi, trans, queer, intersex, asexual, it doesn't matter. Each and every person on this planet deserves respect. This bill doesn't get that balance right. And I would urge the House, please, please, support the amendments. Give a bit more dignity to some people who really need it right now. Say to them without fear or favour that the House of Representatives in this place wants to see all people treated equally, especially our children, to be protected. under the laws that we hold so dear. Thank you.